Hi, friends, and welcome to Only Green, a story educator who is into creating awareness among children regarding the need for protecting our environment. Smitha Nair. She is our guest for the day. She does this with the aid of children's literature focusing on green reads, tree walks, and also scavenger hunt in the gardens. Welcome, Smitha, to Only Green.
Uh, Thank you, and oh, I don't know what to say.
Okay.
Thank you for inviting me for this session, and I'm glad you have something like this uh, for a conversation over green initiatives.
Okay. Can you give us a small brief about your background and also as to what a story educator, a term which is not very familiar to most of us, what exactly a story educator do or what does it mean?
Okay, so I'm basically an educator. That means I'm a trained teacher, and I was teaching chemistry in a school in Bangalore. That was 10 years ago. So then I took a break, and then we moved to Cochin. And that's when all this began, because I didn't want to get back to a mainstream teaching, because that was something I felt there was something amiss in the regular school. So with along with my daughter, I started exploring a lot of things, and reading was one among them. And other than that, venturing into spaces, green spaces in and around the city. And knowing that there was something that my daughter was always longing for, a space for reading. That's how I started curating book collections for her.
Okay.
And then slowly I ventured into storytelling, and I started using stories as a point for discussion and conversation about environment. So that is why a story educator. I use stories to, have conversations with children with any concept for that matter. It's just not the green concept alone. It can be anything to do with math, science, about an animal. It all happens through a story. And I feel that creates a curiosity and inquisitiveness among children to find out more
Okay.
about a certain thing. So that is why the story educator. Yes, I'm also a storyteller, wherein I do use storytelling, but I'm not a performance storyteller. So there's a slight difference between a storyteller and a story educator.
Something which started as a tool to educate your own kid slowly
Yeah,
started
and
moving
I
out.
think it was an education for me also, because I had to unlearn a lot of things. There was this conventional way of learning, and I did my post graduation and everything, and it was all conventional way of learning. There was I believe that these are certain right ways of learning, but when I started on my own, it was time to unlearn a lot of things, and it was unlearning and learning also for me.
Okay.
Learning new things, or maybe rediscovering and researching the things that were already there, but I was unaware of.
Okay. And another term which is again in your profile, which is not very familiar, is green reads. Okay, a medium to instill the awareness about our environment among our children. Can you throw
Yes.
some light on this?
Yeah,
Green reads.
absolutely, absolutely. So Green Reads is nothing but children's literature which focuses more on the environment. It's just not about growing more trees. It can be any issue that the world is currently facing. It can be a climate change issue. It can be about farming. It can be about man-animal conflicts, and how people are finding solutions to make this world a better place, or even sustainability. Books on sustainability. So I have a few books on green reading. This is mostly about children from a village background who have no who have no access to a proper school. So these kind of reads that help the urban child understand what the world is exactly all about. It's just not going to a classroom and having teachers teach you in English, or you're fully equipped. For an urban child going to a school, the child is fully equipped. The parent, they have a parent backing, the parents support them. But what about the other side? So these are reads that help children. So this is another book about children who are into farming,
Okay.
and this is about urban children doing their bit for the environment, and many such children's books that talk about environment itself, and not just one point that everyone keeps talking about, World Environment Day, or planting a tree. It's diverse. The treatment is diverse, and a lot of things that come. And another thing that I want to include in green reads is, apart from books, there are also a lot of digital literature available, wherein you do not spend money on buying a physical book, but you have it. So that also contributes to your green read. And another thing that I personally also follow is, buy as much as pre-loved books. Pre-loved books means somebody who has read them already and doesn't want it. And I go to a second-hand bookstore, something that we have in our city itself, Cochin Blossoms, and I try and select books which has been pre-loved, and you don't have to what is happening is, again, your the demand for paper and felling trees becomes more. I'm not discouraging reading. I do buy new books, but sometimes I feel we can contribute in that way too. So green reads can be in multiple, you can take it in multiple ways, not just the green, the literature that talks about greening the environment, but also how you can reduce.
But then you're not directly associated with any schools per se.
No, yeah, I'm not right now, no, but I do work with a lot of schools as a freelance educator. So I'm also a reading host, where I carry out a lot of reading programs for children, for schools.
Okay.
So again, the focus is mostly on the green reads, where children, where the conversations do not happen maybe in an ideal classroom situation, because schools have their curricula to follow, but we try and bring these kind of reads where conversations, questioning, and a lot of perspectives are involved, even critical thinking for that matter. So this becomes a space where the child is free to ask questions, which may or may not happen in a regular classroom, but with a person who's coming from outside, the freedom to talk and have a conversation around these topics are much more and varied. And everyone talks, because I feel children
only in Cochin, or
no, I work pan India. I work with schools in Bangalore. I mean, that's one aspect of the pandemic. I think I've also cut down on my, carbon footprint. So staying at home, I can take classes. So I do take up, sessions. So they're kind of long sessions, goes on for a few months. So I do take up, work with schools outside Cochin also.
Okay. Then two other activities that I have seen in your profile are one is tree walks and scavenger hunts. I think both these are connected.
Yeah.
Do you do urban tree walks, or you take them out into the wilderness, do a trip there?
The idea of tree walks started off because I was living in an apartment in Cochin. Even though Kerala is green, I mean, finding an independent home was a little difficult when we moved in. So we were all in that apartment kind of an environment, very few trees, and I was looking for spaces where we could engage as a family with a lot of trees and all that. So I did identify the Tripunithara Hill Palace area, which has a lot of trees initially when I came in. Then the museum, of course, near Redapalli had quite a lot of trees, and the idea was for a child to connect with nature. And the first thing I saw with my own children and a few more children is they have the natural instinct to climb a tree.
Okay.
They just want to explore and I don't know, overpower a tree, or I don't know what it is. They just want to play with it, and they will not get bored. It is hours of uninterrupted play when it comes to nature and things associated with nature. And that is why I started off with tree walks, because I felt that there is some, that connection is there for all of us with trees. So I started, having small activities around trees where children can go and hug a tree and whisper to the trees saying, why we like trees and all that. So, and also to get children or the urban population to understand the kind of trees we have in our own localities. Some trees are native to our own state or to the region, and some have been brought from gardening enthusiasts from outside. So the idea was really to connect to our immediate environment. What are the trees that we see? Can we take some kind of a census of trees in and around our homes and gardens? And do we identify trees? Do we know how a jackfruit tree looks like, or a mango tree looks like? Are they gigantic trees? Are they big? These are all questions that a child has. But as adults, I think somewhere we curb it for them, and we don't take enough care to do that for them. So that is why tree walks. And another thing that we did with tree walks is, anything that has fallen, that is where the scavenger hunt comes. So I give them, what we used to do is I used to cut small squares from these old carton boxes, and I asked children to use it like a magnifying glass.
Okay.
So they just keep it on the grass, and they will just observe that square and see what happens inside. And to my amazement, all the children said, that they saw tiny ants. They could count the number of grass blades, or apart from the grass, what were the other plants, tiny plants they could see. Some of them said they spotted a ladybird, they spotted bees, tiny ants. So the observation became focused, and that is when it is a wonder for children also. There's life happening in that small bit also. So just quantify it a little more, and you see there's life thriving everywhere. So that was the idea for tree walks, is first of all to understand the trees in our neighborhoods, and secondly, also come to know that there is life everywhere. Even the soil that we step on has life underneath. So somewhere we have to tread carefully and, be conscious and aware and be mindful of what we are doing with the land. Another thing, very interesting thing that we did is, finding tree fingerprints kind of a thing. So each child would get a paper and pencil, and they will go to a tree, and they will trace the tree's barks. And even though there were 4 or 5 jackfruit trees in one of the tree walks that we went to, each one had a different prints. Each trees had so they are all, building curiosity, inquisitiveness about how, that's the wonder of nature. And yes, so I identified places like this where we have an urban forest. One was Alungal Farms. One is Alungal Farms. You can find it.
That's a
Yeah. Tamenam, right in the middle of the city, and it is cut off from all the noise and everything. It's a 2-acre, urban forest. And another one of a very good friend in Tiruvangur. He also has a home garden with lot of trees, and it's a fruit forest. And another one, we couldn't go there, we've not been there. He's also a good friend called Manoj. He lives near, I think, near Narakil.
Near
Near
yeah.
Narakil. It was always
he's my senior in college.
Oh, really? Okay, okay. So I've always wanted to go there, but the distance, of course, and arranging for a tree walk for a group of children to go to that place also is sometimes becomes very tricky. Not everybody comes for it, but I've always been able to do it with my reading club. Or I invite certain people. I say, look, I'm having a tree walk for children and adults. Why don't you just come? So yeah, it's all happened.
We've done a video with Manoj, which is there now, video list. I featured his garden. I wouldn't call it a garden. It is
it's a forest. Yeah, it is wonderful.
It's really, really interesting to note these 3 activities. I mean, 2 activities of scavenger hunt and the tree walk, and something that even I am hearing for the first time, as unique as a fingerprint.
Because for me, I don't know. I think that thing of an educator is somewhere there. I always feel, children like it hands-on. So if you just take them, on a walk saying this is a jackfruit tree, but how can you make it interesting? Can you tell a story? Can you give them an activity so that, they all come together so that the child feels, okay, I'm a part of this walk. I need to know this tree personally. So that's why I make them do a tree hug, and then we do this story about Sundarlal Bahuguna, the Chipko movement, and all with older children. Of course, they understand because they have it in their textbooks. But these are things that when they do it practically, or when they do it hands-on, it stays on with them for a very long time. And that is why I feel the more they connect with nature, I think the more empathy, the more mindfulness they will have for fellow human beings and the denizens of this world.
Coming to a conference, international conference that you attended, Sprouts.
Yeah.
Can you just tell us a little bit about that conference?
Yeah, so Sprouts is an environmental organization that was founded by a wildlife biologist called Anand Pendarkar, and he is based out of Mumbai in Maharashtra. And every year he hosts conferences wherein we have environmental activists, politicians, educators coming and sharing their views about the environment. And this year it was steps for climate change, steps to reduce climate change was the topic. And we had speakers from varied backgrounds. It was just not environmentalists or environment activists. Every person who feels that they need to make a change and they need to make a difference were all there in the conference. So we had schools participating, heads of schools participating, we had politicians participating, we had plenary discussions, we had activities, we had stories, and I did a little bit on stories and what I do with the children, a group of children here in Cochin. So again, so the conference was very interesting, wherein we had people who, who run their own farms and who've built everything on their own in the sense that all natural, things, for example, rainwater harvesting or solar power, empowering their villages that way. And, staying, some of them have totally moved to the villages, to bring about that change and sustenance and help the farming communities there. And, the whole idea was, the idea of the conference was how as individuals we can, take small steps that create a greater change in reducing our carbon footprints, and how each one of us can think differently, the kind of waste materials we are generating, and they are there in the landfills, how can they be used into into fuels or laying roads, and all those came into discussion. And it was a very interesting discussion for 3 days in November 2021. And yes, so a lot of issues were addressed that the world is currently facing now. No, we don't have
This could have been a
concrete.
follow-up. This could have been a follow-up on COP26, which happened
Yeah, it is. Yes,
last month. Yeah.
COP 20. Yes, 21. Yeah. So a lot of things are happening. So there are no solutions, but we can definitely make a difference by changing our ways in which we use our natural resources and resources from our places.
Going forward, I mean, we understand that you are collaborating with more of environmentalists and educationalists to create an environment-friendly new generation. You being an evangelist for a greener world, also you're talking about bringing in green curriculum in schools.
Yes.
Can you throw some light on these factors?
Yeah. I think there has already, that initiation has already taken place with schools introducing green curriculum, but it has to be consistent. It shouldn't be like a project work. So what happens is in the curriculum, when it is introduced, it has to sustain. It has to be there throughout the year for the children to go back and read up about it. So if, for example, if somebody is a school is setting up a butterfly garden, it shouldn't be like a one-off project and you forget about it. So it should be that the child is going, taking notes, doing a survey. A whole lot of activity around the year can be designed around it. Or if you're having a farming, a little farm in the school, and if you want children to engage with it, you have to have a continuous curriculum arranged, designed for it, rather than it just being a project work for a couple of weeks and then the children forget about it. So through this green curriculum, I think it's also building up on life skills. You're enhancing their life skills and you're letting them learn something on their own. You're letting them get that ownership of that work that they're doing at school. And so children can be a part of the green curriculum. They can design, they can take up a 1-year project of what they have to do. It can be autonomous in that sense, wherein it is a sustained effort throughout the year until they finish school and even beyond that.
All these are done under the banner of Marigold?
Yeah, sometimes in the banner of Marigold, sometimes in collaboration with people or organizations that I'm associated with. So it's always so when we're talking about conservation, it all can happen through collaboration. It cannot happen single-handedly. I mean, sometimes, yes, I can boast of saying I'm doing this, but how do I take it forward if I don't collaborate enough? So this is like
you're also part of some social groups which are into.
Yeah, a couple of social groups. One is Tree for Life. Yes, we've been. I mean, Tree for Life has been there since 2016, I think, and quite a lot of sustained effort has happened in that. That we engage with schools, both government and private schools, wherein we bring about this kind of sustained activities in schools. But sometimes what happens is it just becomes a project. It sometimes it's not carried out throughout the year. So that's what I'm saying. When you call it a green curriculum, it should be there. It should be there as a part of your learning. It shouldn't be just there for the sake of doing a project.
You have been in the field for quite some time now. I mean, how do people reach you, or is there a means to reach you if somebody wants to engage you?
Yeah, I mean, I do share my email.
Is there a website where we can?
No, I don't have a website. I did have a website, but then sometimes I'm like what do I say, singlepreneur kind of a thing. So
Okay.
sometimes it becomes difficult to juggle so many things when work also comes my way. So I have not, I don't have an active website right now, but I do post a lot of activities on my Facebook page, Marigold Creative. And whatever I do and whomever I engage with and collaborate with, they're all there. But yes, sometimes, I cannot put an elaborate post if I'm working with a school, because it's not right to put it. But yes.
Details of how we can reach Smitha, it will be given in the description, so people can go and have a look at it. Surely, I mean, there will be a lot of interesting factors for our viewers too. Coming to the last point, if there is a message that you want to give to the students and to the parents of how you can be close to the nature, live closer to the nature, be self-sufficient in terms of cultivating your own requirement, all these things, can you have a message?
Yeah. So what I say is start small. Every small step leads to the next big step. So even if you're growing a small, coriander in your windowsill, you're still growing food. So start small, but sustain it and be consistent at it. So when we're talking about environment education, it's just not one thing that you do and then you stop it. It has to be a sustained effort and a consistent effort from an individual, from the family, and that is how it goes on. It's like a ripple effect. You are sending out a message that it is possible no matter how small the space, and the entire family can be involved in green initiatives, right from our homes, from our kitchen gardens to larger initiatives outside our homes, be it in schools or environmental groups.
In our channel, we keep telling Uli Green is all about making our world a greener place for our future generations. But then you have come to what you are doing is to create a generation which is conscious and mindful about our environment.
Yeah, absolutely. Because lessons start from home. So if we are taking it forward, obviously, if that seed is sown inside our minds and hearts, we take it forward somewhere. I think that is very essential, that we follow it at home and then take it ahead with our work.
Thank you, Smitha. Thanks a lot for being with us. It was really, really entertaining and at the same time really informative for us, and hope it will be the same for our viewers too. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on this channel. Thank you.